What's up guys, welcome to my Legion Windwalker Monk DPS guide for patch 7.2.5. Now in this video I will be going over your spells and abilities, your talents, your artifact traits and relic choices, your stat priority, and then your single target and AoE DPS rotations if you will, as well as a demonstration of each, mainly using Whirling Dragon Punch. I'll go over Serenity in a separate video. And then I'll wrap up with some macros and add-ons that I use that you might find useful. Now for easy browsing I have included timestamps in the description below, so you can check that out and skip to whatever section you'd like to. Now I want to begin by talking about your spells and abilities, but I will make quick mention of your two alternative resources versus energy, which you start with full energy and then you spend it on some abilities and it regenerates over time on its own. The second resource is chi. You can have up to 5 at any given time. If you try to generate more than 5, then you will just waste it. The first ability I want to talk about is Tiger Palm. This costs 50 energy, does a little damage, generates 2 chi, and looks like this, and it has a chance to proc a free Blackout Kick. Now Blackout Kick is a simple ability, costs 1 chi, does some damage like this, and pretty simple there. Then we've got Rising Sun Kick. This is a 2 chi ability with a cooldown. It's reduced by haste and it does a lot of damage and applies a Mortal Strike debuff, makes the enemy take less healing. Looks like this. You can see it has a little debuff that makes them take less healing. Not super relevant in PvE though. Next up is an ability called Fist of Fury. This costs 3 chi, has a much longer cooldown reduced by haste, and makes you punch in front of you and cleave things like so. So it looks like this, and you just channel and you can move and it hits everything in front of you. It's very cool. And then we've got Strike of the Windlord. Now this is a 2 chi ability, and it is your artifact ability. And so what happens is you just cleave a bunch of stuff in front of you, do a bunch of damage, and it will apply a slow. So it looks like this, and it applies the slow debuff. Now for AoE, we do have Spinning Crane Kick. This costs 3 chi, and essentially makes you spin like this NPC is doing right now. One thing to note is that when you attack an enemy with Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, or Rising Sun Kick, you apply a debuff called Mark of the Crane. And this debuff lasts for 15 seconds, and it persists through death. So even if they die, it kind of continues to buff your ability. And for each stack you have on different enemies, on unique enemies, your Spinning Crane Kick is stronger. So it's buffed by 40% per stack of that debuff that has been applied. And it looks a little bit like this. So that's a Spinning Crane Kick. And you can move while channeling that sort of. It's kind of a mini channel spell. We also do have Crackling Jade Lightning. It is a channeled spell. It costs a bit of energy and it ticks. Every time it ticks, it takes a bit of energy as well. And then we have our DPS cooldowns. So the first one is Touch of Death. 2-minute cooldown. You apply a debuff to a target. And after 8 seconds, it does half of your maximum health as damage. So it looks like this. Apply a debuff. It ticks away and then doesn't do anything until it expires, and once it does expire it will blow up for a bunch of damage. So there it goes. And then we also have Storm, Earth and Fire. Now this is a 1.5 minute cooldown with 2 charges baseline, and I have a trait that is reducing that cooldown currently. And basically you split off into 3 clones and they copy all of your abilities and you just do more damage than you normally do. So it looks like this. You split off and whatever you do, they do. So if I Blackout Kick, they Blackout Kick. If I Strike of the Windlord, they Strike of the Windlord. And you can cast the ability again to tell them, hey, come over here and smack this target instead. So, very potent cooldown and kind of your main bread and butter cooldown as a Windwalker Monk. Defensively, we have Touch of Karma. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown, and you just apply a debuff to a target, and all the damage you take is sent to that target instead. So it looks like this, has a bit of range, and if you take any damage it will instead transfer it to that target, but it does have a limit, and if you pass that limit then it will break and you will lose the effect. In terms of utility, we have an Interrupt, Spearhand Strike, we have Paralysis for CC, 20 energy ability. It just incapacitates a target on a 15-second cooldown. It will remove any dots that are currently on the target, but it will break to any damage that you do to that target. We also do have Disable. There's a slow. As you can see, it just applies a slow to a target in melee range. If you use it again on a target that is already slowed, then you will actually root it for 8 seconds. We also have a dispel called Detox, 20 energy, dispels poison and disease effects. We have a heal called Diffuse that costs 30 energy, looks like this. And then we have our movement abilities. So we have Fly and Serpent Kick, 25-second cooldown, you fly forward for 2 seconds. If you press it again while in flight, you will actually do a little bit of an AoE poof effect and do a bit of damage and slow targets around you. If you don't stop it, then you won't get that effect, so it looks like this. And if you stop in the middle, you get that little AoE effect. We also have Roll. It's a 20-second cooldown with 2 charges, and you just roll in the direction that you are facing if you're not moving, or in the direction that you're moving if you are moving. So if you're standing still like this, you roll forward, and if you move sideways, front, or backwards, you can roll that way as well. We also have an ability called Transcendence, which puts a port down like so, put your spirit here, and it's coupled with an ability called Transcendence Transfer. 25-second cooldown, and you just swap locations with your spirit, like so. And then if you want, you can replace Transcendence. We also do have a taunt ability called Provoke, 8-second cooldown, pretty standard. And then as far as passives, we have our movement speed, so Windwalking, which makes everyone around us move 10% faster within 10 yards, which is pretty cool. And we do spawn some cool stuff when we kill mobs, so more for kind of solo content or dungeons. Like if you kill an enemy, you spawn a healing sphere. You can use that to heal yourself, just rock through it. And if you kill an enemy with Blackout Kick specifically, you have a chance to summon a Chi sphere, and then you walk through it and gain 1 Chi. Now as far as talents go, level 15, basically Chi Wave is pretty good to start with if you're just kind of starting out on Monk, and helps you break up your mastery as well as your hit combo if you're using this talent down here. We'll go over that a little bit more later. But technically it does do a little bit less than a Chi Burst and then Eye of the Tiger, but it's really good for keeping up those buffs. Now, for single target, Eye of the Tiger is quite strong, and especially if you're finding yourself GCD capped where you can't cast Chi Wave because there's always something more important to cast, then you can go Eye of the Tiger, or if you're very comfortable in managing your debuff and your buffs without Chi Wave, then this is probably a better talent as well. And this just is a passive, so it makes your Tiger Palm apply a dot and heal you a little bit as well. Chi Burst can be really nice for big AoE packs, but in general, you'll be safe going Eye of the Tiger or Chi Wave, just in general. Now level 30, it's all movement stuff, so you can kind of pick what you like, so whatever fits your fancy here. Level 45, I recommend Energizing Elixir all the time. It is the best talent in this row and just gives you the most potential. Now if you're not comfortable using it, or you just find yourself sitting on it and not using it during a fight, then you can go Power Strikes, which is completely passive. It's a little bit weaker, but because it's passive, it is easier to use. Level 60, all CC stuff. I probably recommend Leg Sweep by default if there's anything you can stun. Ring of Peace has its niche uses as well, but kind of up to you what you want to use here. Level 75 gives you some defensive options. I would pretty much recommend one of these two, Diffuse Magic or Dampen Harm, if you need another cooldown, and because we only have Karma as a defensive, these can be really powerful. Dampen Harm for physical damage is what I recommend, even though it does reduce magic damage. Diffuse Magic is a bit better for magic damage, so if there's magic damage you're worried about on a fight, then run Diffuse Magic, and if there's physical damage you want a cooldown for, Dampen Harm is your choice. Healing Elixir, if you're not sure how to use the other two, or you just think maybe a little bit of self-healing will help you more, then you can go with this instead. At level 90, hit combo is pretty much your go-to for most situations. It makes it so that every time you trigger your mastery, which means you don't use the same ability twice in a row, you get a little buff and it makes you do more damage, so it's very good just pretty much all the time. Zuen technically could be good if you needed a cooldown every 3 minutes if it lines up really nice with damage buffs or part of the fight. In Tomb of Sargeras though, so far I haven't really seen that too much, but you know, if that situation does arise, then this would be a pretty solid talent. And Russian Jade Wind I don't really recommend most of the time. You can use it to stack your Mark of the Crane debuff up a bit faster, but in general you shouldn't need it to, so most of the cases hit combo is going to be a go-to. Now level 100, basically, Serenity now performs better than Whirling Dragon Punch in pretty much all situations, even without the Wrist Legendary or Chest Legendary or 4-piece combo from the new raid, so Tomb of Sargeras. But Whirling Dragon Punch can be better, in big AoE situations, because Storm Within Fire allows you to stack those Mark of the Crane stacks, up better and faster. And also, Whirling Dragon Punch is a lot more forgiving of a rotation, whereas Serenity, if you do not do it correctly, if you do not fit in all the abilities you need to in that small window, then you might actually find yourself doing better with Whirling Dragon Punch. So, kind of up to you here. If you can master it, Serenity will give you better results in most situations, but there are uses for Whirling Dragon Punch as well. So next up, we're going to go over your artifact weapon and your pathing choices as well as the relic choices. And basically you're going to start here, grab Dark Skies, go around, grab all these traits, and then skip Gale Burst for now, your first golden, or your third golden, excuse me. You skip this, go around, pick up all these, skip this golden as well, and grab Transfer the Power. And it just makes your Blackout Kick and Rising Sun Kick increase damage dealt by your next Fist of Fury, up to 10 times, 3% each stack. And then after you grab Transfer the Power, grab Tornado Kicks, which basically makes your Rising Sun Kick do 25% additional damage. And then go up here, grab Tiger Claws, grab your second golden trait, Crosswinds, which basically buffs your Fist of Fury, makes it do more damage. And then go back, grab Gale Burst, which increases the damage done by Touch of Death, based on how much damage you do while it's active. So once you put the debuff on, all the damage you do to that target is recorded and added to the damage done by Touch of Death, and it's 10% of the damage you do while Touch of Death is active that is transferred to it. And then you finish up with Power of 1,000 Cranes. I'd probably grab this next, then Strength of Zuen, and then you can finish up with your Good Karma and Healing Winds after that in whatever order you like. Now at this point you'll be at 34 points in your weapon, so 35 points you will give you Windborne Blows, and then you'll do your Broken Shore questline, unlock the new traits, as well as more points in the old 3-point traits. At this point I recommend getting the new stuff, so Ferocity the Broken Temple, Split Personality, Master of Combinations, and your new golden trait, Thunder Fist. And this makes it so that when you strike at the Windlord, you get a buff based on how many targets it hit, and this buff discharges some damage every time you melee. After this, grab Fist of the Wind, then Rising Winds for more Rising Sun Kick damage, and then at this point, probably Inner Peace and Power of 1,000 Cranes next, kind of up to you which order you like, and then Tiger Claws, Strength of Zuen, and then the non-DPS ones, Healing Winds, Death Art, and Light on Your Feet in whatever order you like. The Healing Winds might have some more use, so maybe get that first, but it's kind of up to you there. They don't really affect your DPS at all. Now as far as relics go, it kind of depends on whether you want to focus on single target or AoE. So first up, single target, you want to be aiming for Rising Winds relics. Your Rising Sun Kick damage is enormous for single target, and if you have the two-piece Night Holds tier, so the old tier, then these relics can be worth nearly like 40 item levels over a non-DPS relic. And even without it, it's really quite strong, probably just under 30 eye levels-ish on your relics. After that, Fist of Fury is really good for singles still, so not quite as strong, but it is not bad at all. And then you'd be looking at Inner Peace after that for single, and then Tiger Claws and Strength of Zuen. Not quite as impactful versus non-DPS ones, but still pretty decent. And then for AoE, you're going to be looking at Fist of the Wind, Fist of Fury, really, really strong. And for AoE, probably worth just over 30 item levels-ish on your versus the non-DPS trait like Light on Your Feet, Death Art, and so on. And then after that, you'd be looking at Inner Peace and Power of 1,000 Cranes. Now, the Spinning Crane Kick relics are kind of tricky to determine because it really depends on how many targets there are. So the more targets there are, the better this relic is. But these two are quite strong after Fist of Fury. And then you'd be looking at Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, and then Strength of Zuen after that being not quite as impactful. As far as stats go, of course I always recommend that you do simulate your own character. It's the most efficient and accurate way to get the best stats for your character. But if you're looking for a generic priority for single target, there's going to be Mastery first, then Crit, then Versatility, and then Haste. And then for AoE, it's going to be Mastery, and then Haste, and then Crit, and then Verse. Now I want to talk about your DPS rotation, if you will, or kind of priority list. And I'm going to start with single target. using Whirling Dragon Punch, and then I'll go over the AoE with Whirling Dragon Punch as well as the single target and AoE for Serenity afterward. Now, there's a couple concepts to keep in mind. The first is try not to overcap your chi. So if you're at 4 or 5 chi, don't use your Tiger Palm because that generates 2 chi, which will end up wasting at least 1, possibly 2 chi if you're at 5. So it's not worth using at that point. The next is to not sit at full energy for too long. When you're bursting really hard, you're using all your abilities and a lot of chi abilities that don't cost energy, you will end up kind of sitting there for a little bit, as well as when you energize an elixir during that. So don't worry about that too much, but outside of that, try not to stay at max energy because you're wasting potential chi you could have generated with Tiger Palm. After that, there's just a list of priority for what abilities to use. And for single target, using Whirling Dragon Punch, that's going to go something like this. Rising Sun Kick is your most important ability to use, followed by Fist of Fury, then Whirling Dragon Punch, then Strike of the Windlord, then Blackout Kick, and then Chi Wave if you've taken that talent, and then Tiger Palm. Now, it doesn't end up such that you use those abilities in that order. You don't just Rising Sun Kick into Fist, into Whirling Dragon Punch, and so on, because a lot of times they'll be on cooldown or you won't have enough chi, and you also want to never cast the same ability twice in a row. This is very, very important for both hit combo and your mastery stat, which buffs your damage when you don't repeat the same ability. So what happens is you start weaving in abilities. So you might Tiger Palm to build a little bit of chi, maybe you'll Rising Sun Kick, and then you'll Tiger Palm again, maybe a Blackout Kick, siphon off 1 chi there, so you still have 1 left, then you Tiger Palm again, now you have enough for Fist of Fury, so you use that, and then maybe you're ready to Whirling Dragon Punch now because it's available. And remember, to use Whirling Dragon Punch, you have to have both of these abilities off cooldown. So remember to make sure that you've used these 2 abilities, and then you can use this one, and then maybe you Tiger Palm again, Strike of the Windlord, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of mix and match. Never repeat your abilities, and just try to follow that list of priority for what spells to cast next. Now, as far as using your cooldowns go, Touch of Death and Storm, Earth, and Fire, pretty simple. You want to make sure you use Touch of Death on cooldown as much as possible, but do try to line it up with other abilities like Storm, Earth, and Fire. It's really good to line it up with, as well as your hard-hitting stuff, so like Rising Sun Kick, Strike of the Windlord, Fist of Fury, and so on. The big stuff that really, really hits hard, because you do have that golden trait Gale Burst that increases the damage done by Touch of Death based on how much damage you do while it's active. So try to line it up with that, or things like Bloodlust or Heroism, or periods of increased damage to a boss, stuff like that. Similarly, Storm, Earth, and Fire, same kind of concept. Use it as much as possible, line it up with Touch of Death, but also with your hard-hitting abilities if you can, and just kind of match it with what happens in the fight, periods that you need increased damage, or just if you have a lot of cooldowns up. Energizing Elixir, you try to use on cooldown. Try to use it when you're at 0 chi, certainly, and low energy if possible, to get the maximum benefit out of it, but try not to hold on to it too long. So it's better to use it with a little bit of waste than to not use it at all. Just make sure you have it up for when you need it to combine with other cooldowns. Now, I think the best way to kind of understand is to show you. So I will demonstrate for you guys after discussing the opener, and you will be able to follow along with what I'm saying and just kind of going over what I'm thinking and looking at, as well as the icon over here on the left above the chat box, which will show you the spell I have just cast. Now, as far as the opener goes, you want to pre-pot, of course, and then as soon as the pull starts, you can Chi Wave and fly in with Flying Serpent Kick, or you can just run up to the boss if you prefer. The hit combo stacks now disappear, as it seems that they do, as soon as combat starts, so it's a little unfortunate. But you can just go in, and you'll Tiger Palm first, then you'll Touch of Death, and then Storm, Earth, and Fire, into Rising Sun Kick, Energizing Elixir, Fist of Fury, let that channel through, then Strike of the Windlord, Whirling Dragon Punch if you can fit it in, and then Tiger Palm into Rising Sun Kick. Now, with the 2-piece from Nighthold, you will find that Rising Sun Kick comes up pretty close to when Whirling Dragon Punch is about to be used. So if you can't fit it in, if you're like Bloodlusted or Heroismed, or you have very high haste, then you may find that you just Tiger Palm into Rising Sun Kick and then Whirling Dragon Punch, just because you have to in order to use it. No big deal if that happens, but just something to keep in mind. So I'll go ahead and start here. So Chi Wave, Flying Serpent Kick in, Tiger Palm, Touch of Death, Storm Within Fire, Rising Sun Kick, Energizing Elixir into Fist of Fury. And then I'll, at the end of this, Strike of the Windlord into Whirling Dragon Punch, Tiger Palm into Rising Sun Kick, and then Tiger Palm into Blackout Kick, into Chi Wave into Blackout Kick just to break that up so I don't lose my hit combo. Tiger Palm into Blackout Kick into Rising Sun Kick, and then just some more Tiger Palms and Blackout Kicks. Now here I want to build up some Chi because I notice I have a few abilities coming up. So maybe I could have not used the Blackout Kick somewhere because I had to wait a little bit for my Fist of Fury. So it could have been done a little bit better there. I see Rising Sun Kick is ready as well as Whirling Dragon Punch. So I'll Rising Sun Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch in here. I'll save some energy. I notice I'm getting a little bit low. So I'll use Tiger Palm and then Rising Sun Kick. And here I could start saving some Chi, and I probably should because my cooldown is coming up. So I notice I have, you know, my Strike of the Windlord, so I can use that and use my abilities here and just kind of combine it with Storm Within Fire. Just make sure they're, you know, you're doing as many big abilities as you can. So here I will make sure I use my Whirling Dragon Punch after my Rising Sun Kick, and then just again breaking up hit combo. Now here I notice Energizing Elixir is available, so I'll go ahead and use that, and I will Blackout Kick here, and then use my Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Fist of Fury, and you just kind of keep going like this. Keep an eye on what is coming up, what abilities are coming up, and try to pull a little bit of Chi if you need to. So like here, you know, maybe I could use my Storm Within Fire if I wanted to again. Could use my Strike of the Windlord, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm. I'll just make sure I save enough Chi for my Fist of Fury. And then again for Rising Sun Kick into Whirling Dragon Punch, and just keep going like that. And then now Touch of Death is coming up soon, but I don't have Storm Within Fire, so maybe I'll save it. Or maybe if I just want to use it faster, I'll just wait for something like, you know, my Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick to come up. And so your rotation itself might look a little bit different depending on what's going on, because remember, you will get procs of free Blackout Kicks occasionally, and you know, your haste will differ, so things might line up a little bit differently since Strike of the Windlord isn't based on haste and things like that. But just never repeat the same ability. Try to keep an eye on what's coming up off cooldown so that you don't waste time waiting for energy, waiting for Chi, and so on. Now, I want to go over the AoE bit. And so, again, with Whirling Dragon Punch, I'm going to go over some basic concepts. So, don't overcap your Chi. So, if you're at 4 or 5 already, do not Tiger Palm because you will waste one of the 2 Chi, or even both if you're at 5, which is bad. And similarly, try not to stay at max energy for too long, outside of your big cooldowns if you're using things like Fists and Rising Sun Kick and Whirling Dragon Punch and Strike and such that cost no energy but just Chi. You might sit there for a bit. Outside of that, really try to not sit on it. Otherwise, you're not generating enough Chi. Now, there's also a list of priority for what to cast for your AoE, and it's a little bit different than the single target version. And it goes like this. So Fist of Fury is your biggest ability for AoE, followed by Whirling Dragon Punch, followed by Strike of the Windlord, followed by Chi Burst if you've taken it as a talent, and then Blackout Kick, and then Tiger Palm. Now, you may have noticed I didn't mention Rising Sun Kick, and the only time you want to use this is if you needed to use it in order to use Whirling Dragon Punch. Because remember, to use this ability, you have to have both Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick already on cooldown, so unable to be used. So you use this only to enable Whirling Dragon Punch on AoE, because you'd rather do more stuff with Blackout Kick to mark things for Spinning Crane Kick. Now, as far as Spinning Crane Kick and its place in AoE, it does change based on how many targets there are and how many you have marked up. Now, remember that Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick will apply a debuff called Mark of the Crane to the targets, and they do persist through death, but they last for 15 seconds, and for each one you have, you deal 40% more damage with Spinning Crane Kick. So the idea behind AoE is outside of your big cooldowns like Fist of Fury, Strike of the Windlord, Whirling Dragon Punch, and so on, you end up just Tiger Palming and Blackout Kicking a lot of things, you know, and do not repeat the same abilities twice in a row, ever, for both hit combo and mastery. But you use that a lot, mark up a bunch of different targets, and then Spinning Crane Kick when all the other cooldowns are not available to be used. Now, as a small note, there are certain circumstances in which you can build up so many stacks of Spinning Crane Kick that it's stronger than things like, Fist of Fury or Whirling Dragon Punch or Strike of the Windlord. For most cases, though, you won't reach these numbers, and so a safe rule of thumb is to just prioritize Spinning Crane Kick above Blackout Kick and Tiger Palm, essentially. So use it after you already use all your cooldowns and they're not available, and just build up stacks outside of that. As far as using your cooldowns, it's kind of similar. You want to use Touch of Death as much as possible and line it up with other cooldowns like Storm, Earth, and Fire, and your hard-hitting abilities like Strike of the Windlord and Fists and so on. And for Storm, Earth, and Fire, it's very similar to single target. Also, you match it up with your other cooldowns and big hard-hitting abilities. But also note that, remember that you can use Storm, Earth, and Fire twice in a row to retarget the abilities or the clones on one target, and you do not want to do that for AoE. Let them run wild and free. Let them mark up targets for you. Every time you use a Tiger Palm and they copy you, they apply the same stack that you do to a different target. And so with Storm, Earth, and Fire, you can easily and quickly mark up a bunch of targets so that you can get maximum stacks very, very quickly of Mark of the Crane. Now again, I think the easiest way is to kind of show you so you get a feel for it. And I won't go over the opener again. Opener is basically the same for anything. What I will do is show you guys if this was like a big pack of, I won't say big, but 4 mobs. I just run in and I might actually not Tiger Palm before I cooldown, because I might want to use that in order to help mark up more targets more quickly. So again, you can follow along with the icons over here on the left, right above the chat box. We'll show you what I have just cast, and we'll go ahead and start. So maybe I'll Chi Wave, fly in, pop my Touch of Death, pop Storm, Earth, and Fire, and then Tiger Palm, and just use my abilities. So Rising Sun Kick, maybe I'll Fists now. I'll Whirling Dragon Punch, make sure I get that in there, Strike of the Windlord, and now I'm kind of down to just my other abilities. So I'll use Tiger Palm and Blackout Kick to mark up a bunch of targets, use Spinning Crane Kick when I can to do, as much AoE as possible. Now you notice that Fist of Fury is coming up and I'm a little bit low on energy, so I'm actually going to save this and not use Spinning Crane Kick, and instead use Fists when it's ready. And now I notice that Whirling Dragon Punch is ready, so I'll Rising Sun Kick to enable it, and I'll make sure I use Rising Sun Kick on a new target or something to mark up, refresh my stacks, or mark up a new target to get stronger Spinning Crane Kicks. And now I notice, okay, I've got Strike of the Windlord and Fist of Fury coming up, so I'll use, in this case, Chi Wave. I'll go ahead and Fists first because there's higher priority. And then I'll Strike of the Windlord out of it. And now I'll Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick something. Again, marking up another ability. And that's just so I can use Whirling Dragon Punch. And now, again, once I've built up enough Chi, I can use Spinning Crane Kick. I'll Blackout Kick here. I'll go ahead and I will use an Energizing Elixir. And then use Chi Wave or Chi Burst if I had it to break up and not waste hit combo. And I should have Fist of Fury right there. But, Fist when you can. Use your Tiger Palm, use your Rising Sun Kick on different targets if you can, Whirling Dragon Punch when it's available, and then of course you could use cooldowns at any point. So again, pop Storm, Earth, and Fire, build up stacks quickly, Spinning Crane Kick, and I've got Strike of the Windlord available. I want to make sure I have Fist of Fury available and ready to go because it's about to come off cooldown, and just so on and so forth. So kind of just using your cooldowns just like you did on single target when possible, and then outside of that, you mark up different targets and Spinning Crane Kick when you have enough Chi for that. So that's kind of the idea behind your AoE with Whirling Dragon Punch. Now, as far as macros and add-ons go, I do use a script kind of in macro form here, and that is to move my Chi bar. So it looks something like this, and I'll have this posted in the description below. But basically, just know that you change this where this 2 is to change how big you want the bar to be. And then the 0, -80 is the X and Y coordinates, so you can change those numbers to move it wherever you want. Other than that, I don't really use too many macros right now. Now, as far as add-ons go, I do use quite a few. The main one being Weak Wars 2, which you probably saw during the demonstration and throughout the video. And mainly I use it to track cooldowns, timers, buff times, just to see when I mess up my hit combo, how long I have left on Serenity, and so on and so forth. You can do all sorts of stuff. I also use it to track how many Spinning Crane Kick stacks I have, which can be really, really useful. And you can do so many things with it. I also use that for my energy bar as well. It is Weak Wars 2. Now, the icon that pops up in the middle of the screen is from Doom Cooldown Pulse. which I cannot really recommend, but it's a very easy fire and forget add-on. It pops up when stuff is supposed to be off cooldown, and it's been inaccurate, which is why I don't always recommend it, but it is simple, so if you want something very simple, then it can be quite useful. But you can also do the same effect in weak auras too, so if you're so inclined, you can just do a better, more accurate version in that add-on instead. In addition, my damage meter is Details, damage and healing meter, and it takes a little bit of setup, but I like it the best so far between that, SCADA, and Recount. But they're all excellent add-ons, but this is just the one I use right now. I also have Bartender 4 for my action bars, so you can set up different bars, you can move them around, you can set up what you want the buttons, how many buttons to have, how big, you know, how many rows, and you can set key bindings for everything, so it's really quite nice, and you can mess with other bars like pet bars, you know, your micro menu, your bags, and so on. I also do have Exorcist raid tools. Mostly I use it for raid cooldowns, as well as the note function where you can write notes about like soaking or cooldowns and so on and share with the raid. You can set up raid cooldowns to track people's raid cooldowns. If it bugs out, just unenable it and then re-enable it, and it should fix it. And it has other things too, like raid checks, raid inspects, battle res, and so on. And I also use ORA3, which I mainly use for the battle res monitor, which because I like it more than the Exorcist one, just the way it looks. And you can also do some of the same things, like consumable checks, cooldowns, which I don't use, loot methods, so you can like auto set stuff, and you can do alerts to see things like who CC'd, who broke a CC, who misdirected, who taunted, and so on. It can be quite useful for stuff like that. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked it, feel free to hit the video with a like. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below, or catch me on my stream at twitch.tv/Maralone. And if you want to see when I post new content like this, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.